you need to be a hero in your category, yeah? And that's the big thing. When we looked at, when we sold the bear business, we were the leading brand. We were the biggest and the leading brand for kids' fruit snacking, right? And that's what made a big difference. In Vita Coco, at one point in time, we had a 92% market share of coconut water. That got down to as low as 51%. But all the way through that time, regardless of market share, we were always the number one coconut water, right?
Yeah.
And that was the big thing, right? That's what buyers want to see. They want to bring in, if you're looking for a successful exit, they need to make sure that you're a hero of category. And that's why, if you're actually got a big turnover, but you're littered across 5 or 6 categories, and you're a jack of all, but master none of those categories, difficult to get a very exciting exit because you're just not powerful enough in either of those categories. And that's not just for the who wants to buy you. It's more important, it's for the buyer, yeah? So if you're in a...
So when you say buyers and
If you're in a sold supermarket buyer, right? So if you're Tesco, Sainsbury's, whatever, right? My advice is always build really deep before you go wide, right? Which basically means, so if you look at, take one of my current ones, Bio and Me, for example, right? We are focused on 2 categories. We've got cereal, and then we've got basically dairy, and we're not going any further than that at this stage, right? Because we just want, in cereal, we've got muesli, porridge, and granola, and we've also got some cereal bars which sit as part of that portfolio. And then we also have kefir yogurts and kefir drinks.
Yeah.
They are billion-dollar opportunities in themselves, right? We are now just working with the buyers and just focus on those 2 categories, and just to make sure that we're absolute heroes in those categories. We're getting loads of things, you could go and do this category, this and this. And actually, for us, it's no, we're going to build really deep, because then we know if we become a hero in those categories, it really does help us then. If for some point in time we want to exit that business, we're in the strongest possible place because we're very strong in that relative category. But the bit I also just wanted to mention to you, Dan, was what I don't think people realise is that when you come to sell your business, you are going to be sat in a due diligence meetings with not just the commercial director, the marketing director, the MD, the CEO, whoever it is from these big entities who are obviously kicking the tires on your business. These days now, there is a guy like you sat there with a laptop who is a data guy, right? When you go into an exit process, whoever's buying you, I guarantee you, unless you are very lucky and you have very deep pockets as a startup or challenger brand, they will know more about your brand, your consumer, and your business from a data perspective than you will, because they have access to all of the consumer, shopper, and category data. So I've seen it, and funny enough, I was speaking with some of the M&A advisors in the last few weeks, and they were laughing. They were saying, I've been in some meetings recently, and some of the founders' jaws are just dropping because they're suddenly sat there going, oh my God. They're sat there going, oh my God, these guys know more about my brand and my consumer than I do. So don't bluff, don't bullshit, but also you've got to make sure you know your consumer really, really well, because the stakes are very high in an exit, and you've got to realize you've got to be on top of your game if you want to get a successful exit. People think that innovation's got to be as weird, as wacky, and as different and out there as possible, right?
Yeah.
Innovating close to the core is the number one advice I can give everybody about innovation, right? Because if you innovate, if you've got something in if your core business or your core category, your core SKU is really strong, doing different derivatives or very similar products of that is going to create more value for you, for the shareholder, and for the consumer, whichever way you want to look at it. And there's so many examples of that. So the Vita Coco one you've given, I remember, I was in that business 12 years. We did every single flavor, like passion fruit, pomegranate, blah, blah, blah. We did sparkling. We did everything. We tried everything. And then we sat there and we obviously had Vita Coco Pure. And then somebody said, well, look, the number one thing we've always known is people said, look, God, I wish it tasted more like a pina colada. So we were like, right.
That's the white SKU, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's the pressed, right?
So
all we did was we took the great core Pure offering and we basically blended in another 20-30% of your puree to create a much more richer and sweeter coconutty tasting flavour, which we call pressed, which was for those people who are real diehard loves coconut taste. That was for those consumers. And it tasted, obviously clearly no alcohol in it at all, but it tasted almost like like what you expect the pina colada. Within the first 12 months, that press launch delivered more revenue to the group than the last 7 years of innovation in total in 12 months. And again, let me give you one example as well of just in market that I just think is so smart at the moment is that, again, look at the Red Bull juggernaut, right? Red Bull, at the end of the day, 99.8% of their turnover, or let's just say 90, whatever it is, 95, 99%, whatever you want to say, is their regular Red Bull and then their sugar-free Red Bull and then different pack sizes around that, right? So actually don't forget pack size and packaging is big innovation, as well as obviously looking at different variants, right? They've tried tonics, they've tried Red Bull Cola, they've tried additions. All of them do hardly anything. But what's really smart, I think, that they've done in the last few weeks has been announced. So they've now launched Red Bull Zero. So they've looked at the Coke model and said, well, actually, let's look. They've got Coke, Diet Coke, and Coke Zero. So what they've done now is they said, well, do you know what? Let's do the same on energy drinks. So we've already got sugar-free and we've already got the regular. But actually, sugar-free doesn't taste the same as the regular, but let's do a Coke Zero equivalent and call it Red Bull Zero. And they've launched that. And I guarantee that is going to absolutely fly. And, again, another example is look at Oatly, right? They have their oat drink. They then have the organic one. They then have the barista edition and stuff. Again, very similar product, but a slight twist or nuance on it. And these are all hugely incremental and bringing in new consumers.
The format thing's fascinating, and I think it's actually, as you say, people can think because I'm an entrepreneur or a founder or even the team, it's like we've got to do something fucking, a bit like that Jaguar thing. It's like do something so fucking bonkers.
That's trending at the moment, isn't it? Maybe that's what it's all behind it. They know it's really bad, but they just don't say
it's almost like we've got to do something so wacky and crazy to really push the boundaries. And you see brands just kind of moving, as you say, away from their core category. And then I'm walking down another one, I'm like, shit, these guys are playing in here. And I won't say the brands, but like, that's crazy. But the format thing's really interesting. It's actually quite easy to do. And the sales director at Vita Coco was talking about consumption expansion.
Yeah.
So he was saying that, if you get a pack of 8 of those Vita Coco things in your in store, right? Say it's a pack of 8, I don't know the actual sizes. If that's in your fridge, you were going to bosh through that. And I know this for a fact from Diet Coke. If I've got Diet Coke in the fridge and I've got 8 of them, I will just blitz through them.
Yeah.
Versus if I've got 1, it's like, all you've got to do is make the pack bigger, get that in. It's not that, but still, but then it's going to drive your sales. And it's this consumption expansion thing. And, I think it's what Dash do very well by doing those big things on D2C. It's like, if I've got 1 Dash at home, versus say 10, I will get through 4 a day. So I'll just be...
You'll drink more in between the same, because let's just say, again, it varies by person, but let's say your average main shopping trip is every 7 days.
Yeah.
Guarantee you, if you get that strategy right, you can double, treble, or even quadruple your consumption over that same period by just getting the pack size. And you're right, you've got D2C. You also got, a vehicle like Costco as well. You see people buying massive packs in Costco, but they're buying as frequently because they get the consumption. They're not running out during the period between when they're making the first and the second purchase, right?
What about?
But there's also one other big thing on there as well, right? And this is where some of the brands are smart in the D2C world: is the more you can get the consumer into the subscription model, the better.
Espressos is sponsored by supply chain software gurus Unleashed. It talks to your e-com and accounting software. It's helped Islands cut admin time in half, get granular clarity on your margins, know where your stock is, don't miss availability. Brands like Candy Kittens, Tiny Rebel and Trip all use Unleashed, and so should you.